This week is a special week. It's Holy Week. It's the week where we look and remember the days leading up to the cross and the sacrifice that Jesus paid for us and His resurrection 3 days later. And one of the things that you will hear as a common theme of this week is God's grace. That God's grace was what provided Holy Week to happen, that it was God's grace that sent Jesus to this earth, that it was God's grace that sent Him to the cross, and it was God's grace that 3 days later rose Him from the dead. And so that's a huge theme that you will hear this week. And as I was thinking and reading through my Bible last week in my quiet time, one of the best pictures that you see of God's grace is Jesus' parable of the prodigal son. And if you don't know the passage, I would encourage you to read Luke 15. It talks about different things that were lost and then found. But one specifically was the prodigal son. And the story goes that the youngest son of this man went up to him and said, "Hey, can I just have my inheritance? In other words, you are no longer good for me. Like I don't really care about you. The only thing that's good about you is my inheritance, your money. So can we just, you're sort of dead to me. I just want your money. Can I just have that?" And the father gave him his inheritance. It says that the son went out to another town and splurged and spent it on everything, pretty much on a wild weekend or wild lifestyle. And so it turns out that after a while, the money ran out and he's finding himself in the pit, a pigsty, and he's craving the food that the pigs are eating. And it says that, man, my father's servants eat better, live better than this. If I could only go back. And the story goes that he goes back to his father, and his father, just full of grace, receives him. He doesn't shame him. He doesn't yell at him, punish him. No, he receives him. It says that he throws a party for him. And I think, again, just a huge picture of God's grace. But as I was reading, one of the things that really stuck out to me was the fact that the point where the son got to that decision making of, do I stay here or do I go? And I think it spoke highly to me because I am a, if you know Enneagrams, I'm a type 3, all right? I'm a driven, I work hard. But part of that is I lack humility. Now I don't take compliments very well, but I can be a very prideful person, and I struggle with that. You can ask any of my coworkers, you can ask my wife. I have to remind myself to stay humble, because if I don't, pride gets to me. There's a song that I've been listening to that talks about my pride's too real. I probably die starving before I ask for a meal. And that's me. I have a hard time asking for help and humbling myself. And one of the things that stuck out to me was Luke 15, verse 18, where it says, "I will arise," this is the son talking, "and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you." And that kind of hit me, because I started thinking, man, how many times do I not humble myself to ask for forgiveness or to ask for God's grace in my life? And I think that's not only in God's case, but then in other cases where I'm too prideful to humble myself before others. And I think when it comes to God's grace, all of that comes down to your humility. God's grace is there for you, but we must humble ourselves. Salvation is that way. Before we can receive God's grace, we must humble and say, God, we need you. I can't get to you. I need your grace in my life because of the things that I've done. And then even after salvation, man, our daily walk with God requires us to be humble, to say, God, I need you every single day of my life. I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna mess up, but God, I need your forgiveness. I need your grace in my life to continue to move on. And so I would just encourage you this week, man, humble yourself. Receive God's grace in your life, because this is something that we need every single day of our life.